Hello, Internet. This is Isaiah. Welcome back to my channel. I am feeling a little off today. Briar thinks it's because I've now been up to the proper dosage of my meds, and I pretty much agree. I woke up and had a sort of out of body experience for a bit where I wasn't even sure I was awake yet. I am finally up and moving though, and I'm going to be sewing some books together today, so that's going to be fun, hoping that I can sell some of them so that I can make a little bit of money for moving. Uh, so I've been having nightmares the past few nights, and I don't know if it's because of the new meds or if it's because of the stress, but they're pretty weird because it's always about going to Disney World with my family and with my past dog, Chase, and usually I end up waking up feeling super guilty because I I had to put down Chase. I had to make the decision myself, and it was partially because I didn't have the money to continuously chop off bits of him so that he could not have cancer anymore, and partially because there was no guarantee the cancer wouldn't come back or that he wasn't in pain. So I know logically what I did was the best for him, but I guess the guilt is eating me up a bit lately. And then yesterday's dream took a wild turn because I wear tank tops a lot. I'm very warm blooded typically, so I like to wear tank tops. And of course, y'all know Disney World in Florida. That's fucking hot, especially in the middle of summer, which is the only time I remember going. I've only been once, really. And because of the shirt I was wearing, it could show off the undershirt. And my father got extremely angry and controlling, and he slapped me across the face. So I guess today's video is just going to be me venting about my father and why I don't have a relationship with him and how you can be a dad without being a piece of shit, basically. So I've mentioned before that I don't really talk to my dad. And I haven't since, I believe, end of 2016, 2017 ish area. Maybe 2018 if I'm being really bad with numbers, but I am pretty sure it's around 2017. So before that, he wasn't really in my life that much, not compared to like my mom, because he was in the military. He started the Marine Corps when he was 18 years old, and my parents met in Colorado. Apparently, they were both married and they divorced. I don't know if they divorced slash separated before they met each other or what, but I do remember my mom once telling me that my mom met my dad, and 3 days later they were moved in together. I also know that my mom went up to Colorado with her first husband, and it sounds like they separated shortly afterwards. Because my mom comes from Alabama, and so she kind of was using the chance to escape. Irony being that she's now back in Alabama, of course. So they moved in together, and they had me when my mom and him were like 22, 23 years old because they were both born in 1970 and I was born in 1993. Um, my dad's job made him travel all over the place. From what I can gather, he was like probably an electrician or something like that in the Marine Corps. Something very trade oriented because he is from a small town in Georgia, and there wasn't really a lot. My paternal grandfather actually puts carpet in and stuff. So I guess maybe I get some of my handyman desires from them. We moved to Japan where I started kindergarten, and then my maternal biological grandfather died because my paternal grandparents, my grandfather was abusive, and my grandmother ended up divorcing him and meeting the person who I call Grandpa, who kind of took care of the family after all of that. He is an incredible man, and I don't know how he married into this insane family, but he did, and he's still here. He is very independent and insists on taking care of my grandmother himself. I love that man. Anyway, so my maternal grandfather died, and this coincided with the time where my dad's station in Okinawa was ending. So my mom and my little sister went over first, and I was with my dad. And that's when I first remember having nightmares because we watched X Files, and I was like 6, 7 years old. So we were in bed, and all I could see in the lights were the shadows of the aliens coming to get me. So I didn't sleep that much that night. I mean, I'm a pansy. I was also really scared of the Goosebumps episodes where the giant green blob was going after people. So take my fears with a grain of salt. I am still a chicken. After we moved back to Alabama, my dad became a civilian for a while, but he and my mom would get into fights. And I used to remember my little 8-year old brain logic was if he would be out until 8 o'clock, which is right around my bedtime, then he'd be gone forever. I specifically remember that because for some reason, that thought process, not necessarily the if he's gone past 8, he'll be gone forever, but the knowledge that as young as that was, I thought my parents needed to be divorced and we would be happier, kind of lingered. Eventually, we moved to Laketown, the fake name that I've given my hometown where I mostly grew up, and he joined the National Guard because apparently he decided he got tired of commuting for like 45 minutes and wanted to commute an hour and a half because he was a captain in the National Guard, so he ended up taking over like a part of Fort McClellan. And so he was gone all the time. He wouldn't be home until really late. He wouldn't really want to talk to us or anything because, I mean, if you're driving an hour and a half and then you're working on a base with other people and you're having to order them around and do shit, it gets complicated fast. And they ended up building their dream house, so we bounced around for a bit and moved into that house where my sister and I thought they would die fighting together when they were old because, again, the arguments never really stopped. We were very rarely left alone with my dad. There was a time when my mom had to go out of town for a little bit, and that's when he told me about the time he popped out someone's eye. We also ate mac and cheese straight from the pot, even though my dad's actually a really good cook. My sister and I were scared of him, especially me. It's funny how it's changed as we've gotten older because now my sister's pretty close with my dad. I believe she's living with him currently out in Arkansas, but I want nothing to do with him. And he just wasn't much of a figure in my life. When he was there, I was scared. I didn't want to be around him. I felt like I couldn't be myself, as little as myself as I could be anyway, because I didn't really know what I was doing at that point in time in my life. And I was excited to graduate and get out of there because I could be free, spread my wings. But that was wrong because when I ended up moving into the dorms, my dad would hold money over my head. And he continued to hold money over my head until I broke contact with him. He would talk about how he's paying for my apartment or the fact that he was paying for my car. He did eventually sign it over to me for $1, and I ended up selling it years later to fund moving up here, more or less. But it was constant feeling like I had to give him time and give him this person that he wanted me to be so that he would continue to fund the absolute basics so I could work a job part time to pay for all my other stuff, and he would pay like $500-600 a month in terms of rent and phone bill. And things got a little better when I broke out of college for a year and I moved up. And then he like told me about the GI Bill, and I didn't want to take it because I didn't want to be any more in debt to him. So that's why I started to move to Texas until my mom insisted otherwise. And I finally got completely independent. The only thing that wasn't in my name was my phone bill, and that was because it was a little cheaper to go through my mom, and I was paying her the amount of it per month, maybe even a little bit more just to make sure it was fine, but otherwise I was totally independent. And he sent me this Christmas present that was exactly like what he gave my sister. And I had been excited about it for a minute. I wasn't that excited because it wasn't stuff I was super interested in, but still, it felt nice to get the present. And I should mention a little bit before that, my dad is kind of the one who instigated the divorce. I'm not saying either of my parents are clean. Luckily, I was already pretty much a young adult, even though I wasn't very emotionally mature. So I could tell that both of my parents were doing each other dirty. But my dad got a promotion and needed to move down to Prattville. And he bought this big old house with too many rooms, considering both of his kids were already like on the cusp of being completely independent, or at least of moving out for over half the year. And my mom didn't want to move because she had spent the entire first half of their marriage moving around, and they'd been together for like 20 years at this point. And she finally had built up friends and work and everything in Lake Town. And my dad used so much against her. The fact that he sold his Broncos so that they could fund her back surgery, the fact that this was going to be really good for all of them. He would never spend time with my mother doing things that she wanted, but she would go and do stuff that he wanted until he got too busy to do even his own hobbies, or he sold his trucks for the back surgery, which was incredibly necessary because my mom has severe scoliosis to the point where if she hadn't had back surgery when she was 14, she would have been in a wheelchair and died like in her late 20s, early 30s. As it was, when I was like 8, I remember she was having neck pains because they fused two rods, metal rods, into her back. And when I was like 15, they took those rods out and fused her from the base of her pelvis to the base of her neck. And she still has huge pins. She's really proud of those x-rays too. She will whip them out at a moment's notice. It's kind of funny. I guess she finds it kind of funny. It's a way to cope with the fact that you've had this severe biological issue your entire life. But he would use all that against her, and I remember eventually she broke down and agreed to move down, but by then he said it was too late. And there are some family items that I haven't seen since then because I don't know what's happened. He sold the house in Prattville and moved, and then my sister got in a serious car accident right around her 18th birthday. And he took forever to come up because this was right after they signed their divorce papers. He he was already dating someone, and so they were going to go somewhere for 4th of July weekend. Abigail got in a car accident that almost killed her. And when he finally got there, he he would leave at like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. every night and wouldn't stay while my mom was staying. And I was up there too, but my mom forced me to go stay with a friend. And it turns out that my sister doesn't know this, I don't think. But it turns out that he was seeing his girlfriend every night because she came too. I don't know how that's appropriate. I don't know if my sister knows or not. I promised my mom I would never tell because I don't want to color my sister's opinion of my father like that. She resents my mom in many ways because my mom's the one who mostly raised us, and my mom's the one who had to take care of her after the car accident. And I can't help but think of how traumatizing that must have been for my little sister. But I do also remember I met the girlfriend that was then, they moved in together. Um, and I brought Chase with me, my dog. And my dad kept asking me where Chloe was. If you don't know this, but Chloe was actually my mom's dog. And we got her when I was 15. And we got Chloe, my dad and I got Chloe after my mom's back surgery. After they'd gone through PT and come back from Texas to finish recovering. Because I didn't mention this, but my mom's scoliosis case was so severe and delicate that no one would work on her. And at the time, there were only 5 specialists worldwide that would be able to deal with her specific needs, and one of them was in Texas. So we got Chloe when she was 8 weeks old and brought her home, and she was a little white Shih Tzu, and brought her to my mom as a Christmas present for so that she would finally get the puppy that she's always wanted because she wanted a Shih Tzu Yorkie puppy. Well, we got her a Shih Tzu. And this is after their divorce and everything else. And I brought Chase with me, and my dad's just like, "Where's Chloe? You should bring Chloe next time." And I'm sitting there with Chase, and I'm like, "Are we not enough?" But because also, he's had a history of he wanted to teach me cars. I wasn't interested in cars. I was interested in woodworking, but he took another family's boys under his wing. And he sent me away when he was working on a fence because I was helping him. And then these other boys, one of them being the person that bullied me, came around and he was like, "All right, don't need you anymore, Isaiah." Only I was Alyssa back then. And so now he has this new woman with 2 teenage boys. So I'm sitting there watching my dad interact with these boys in a way that I never seen him interact with me, including the nerdy shit. Like one of the boys really loved Yu-Gi-Oh. So I talked with this kid about Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic the Gathering, and it was great. And then my dad came in and started like vibing with him, and I was just like, "What? How can you be this loving and caring for these kids that aren't even biologically yours, but not for me or for Chase?" And then the Christmas present box came, and I didn't want to talk to him, and I knew I needed to. And he ended up chewing me out when he called me about how when he sends me gifts, he expects my time. And so I stopped talking to him because I told him I didn't want his stuff. And now I'm having these nightmares where my dad is berating me for everything I'm doing, telling me that I'm not good enough, and then nitpicking my clothing choices about how you can see my undershirt through the armholes of my tank top, and do I want boys to be staring? And then I point out that I'm a trans man who happens to be a little more on the gay of the biromantic side, and he blows up at me and tells me that I am not a son. I am not his son. I am a girl. And I'm standing there with Chase under my arm because he kept slipping his harness. and I wake up and I don't feel like I'm in my body because maybe the meds are interacting with each other or something. I've got a doctor's appointment soon. I've got a therapy appointment in a couple of days. So I'm going to be okay. But God, it just feels nice to get it off of my chest, I guess. I know I would say something about fathers and how to be a good dad. I actually want to make a video about some of the good animated dads that I've seen from like Bob and the Great North, I believe Beef is his name, and other ones like, I mean, maybe he's not a dad, but Reagan Arataka from Mob Psycho 100. I keep pushing it off because things keep getting crazy here, and I want to do the video justice and not just a slap voiceover sort of thing. But things keep getting put off, so I keep journaling instead. And I appreciate everyone who chooses to listen to me complain about shit for 20 minutes at a time. So that's going to be it from me today. I'm going to go get something to drink, make sure I've taken my meds, because I honestly can't remember if I did or not. I'll stay hydrated, and I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Bye.